Hello, it's Kid Charlemagne. We're back to talk about today's album, which I do not have a physical copy on me, but it's away from me. I cannot access it at this point, but it's Blue. Joni Mitchell's Blue. This came out in 1971. Um, kind of get into a lot of the more, I guess, meta spheric aspects of it in terms of kind of how it's viewed in the consciousness of music and not just her catalog. But first, with this cover that we all know, that we've all seen before, because it's really one of those albums that maybe not just like overexposed, but it has like that everlasting existence in the online oeuvre of canonized classic albums. You will, when you look up like the best albums ever, top 100, top 250 lists, top 50 lists, this will be on there. This is the Joni Mitchell's album. Every time. Every time. No other Joni Mitchell album exists except for Blue, according to these lists. People can have their opinions on that, and like as for what her best kind of work is and how it should be lined up with the rest of the music in the world, but we'll talk about it. But like I'm saying, it's just kind of the Joni Mitchell album. If you walk up to someone on the street, ask them to name a Joni Mitchell album, it's gonna be Blue. Um, which is fine because it's a great album, but all it really adds up to me is that it's just hard for me to ever be incredibly honest in talking, about the cover specifically, as we like to talk about the cover and the title in my videos. But because I've just like seen it so much, I feel like I never can be too natural or authentic in how I really feel about it, because it just hardly evokes a lot out of me. But I do say I admire how the color um, is just, it's kind of like overshadowing her. It's kind of like a wave of color that's kind of like overshadowing, like physically, and overtaking that photographic image of her face. I don't know exactly what she's. I think is that a microphone? I can't really tell exactly what's going on towards the bottom. Is she like singing? I don't know. The title, Blue. It's a color. Is it her favorite color? I don't know. Maybe. It's in the sky. Clouds. Her second album. That it's in the sky with the clouds. No, but this title, it certainly alludes to the feeling one has, because a lot of her songs are very like melancholy and sorrowful, and especially on this album. But Blue, it is also like the genre blues. Um, she's certainly been influenced by that, and something I noticed and will comment on is kind of the where she finds herself as a musical artist in between the genre of blues and in between rock and roll, because she was, as an artist, she's kind of in that milieu of people in Laurel Canyon with a lot of rock and roll stars, and so in her music she certainly expresses how she doesn't really fit in with these people. Mostly like musically, but I guess personality wise too. My first impressions are, well, it's kind of quite similar to what I kind of just said, but it's like an album that was already ingrained to my consciousness, without ever actually listening to it. And don't worry, I don't have any like hot takes about this. It'll be very predictable by the end what I will say. But no, it is a great album. I'm not going to remark too much on, I guess, it thematically right now. Uh, I'll get into it. But All I Want, the first track, I think this is an incredibly strong opener. Um, but what we're introduced to here is something that kind of occurs throughout the album, I found. It is kind of this subdued, composed pattern inflection of her voice. Um, and this song in particular, it's one where I find myself paying more attention to her voice and what she's doing with certain words than the words she's actually saying. Because she's known as a brilliant lyricist, but I often like to pay more attention to her voice. Just it's especially impressive, um, just with the tempo and pace I'm kind of trying to get at. Um, she kind of keeps in this song. She kind of like meanders through certain lines, but then quickly like raises her patterns, raises her pitches to stretch out certain lines or words, and when I say like meander, this is not a slight. It only relates to her lyrics and how, the song is called All I Want. It's a very personal and intimate way to open the album. And so I think their, her vocal tones and inflections are often reflecting in what she is saying. And it goes back to the last albums. This what did I say? This intimate and personal kind of opener. And what I was talking about, perspectives with Lady in the Canyon. The last stanza, in particular, it's kind of just a repetition of I want, I want, I want, and there's so much of that like assurance that it's kind of like an implication that the other person may not want these things, or just as much as she does, and so the way it ends, it kind of leaves you almost in like it's almost a bittersweet, a bleak ending, and it leaves you in a weird little headspace afterwards. But no, it's a it's a very strong opener. I'm going to take a look at that ending right now. Yeah, it's she wants to make them feel better, feel free, feel free. It's so repetitive. It's just that lingering feeling. So, my old man, looking at the voice again, just a quick note, but I do personally love how the repeated lines in kind of the we don't need the piece of paper, and then the keeping away blues, and then but when he's gone, that little hook, she inflects that pitch to match the sound of the piano, which I love a lot. On this album, I think it's very coherent in what she's doing musically, with just the guitar on some songs and then the piano. I don't think it's anything too over extravagant. Not that stuff on the other albums were, but the way everything sounds here comes off very precise and particular. So, with that, yeah, but with those lines, she keeps them like higher pitched and more somber, depending on what she's saying. But it's just something that stuck out to me. Makes one maybe want to learn piano over guitar. Maybe not. I don't know. But also, while listening and thinking about this, I thought a lot about how Willie on the last album, it starts and ends with the lines that's like, it's like a Willie is my father and my son, something like that. It's obviously referring to a partner, a lover. And on this album, we get a second kind of paternal reference, but this is more titular, my old man. It's an interesting look, at least into the psyche of her, but more so, what what I'm looking at here is kind of just the more of a lingering cloud of assurance that is present in how she doesn't kind of need um, those papers to keep her tied and true. She makes that um, mention of it multiple times. So it's kind of like I don't know. It just keeps that assurance going. But Little Green, um, we get another paternal line in this song. Child with a child pretending. Um, it's another like perspective songs like that can be read um, about like where different voices are coming from in the song, but it's a child under divorce. It's quite sad, but I do really like the final stanza and kind of that main repetition of how there will be good and bad in the life of the child. But most importantly, I think what I noted most in this song is the colors. We get three of them. Blue, we get this is the third straight mention in a song. We got them in the first two. We know the title, of course. And then green, which is the child. It's a harmonious growth and renewal of life in the world. And then there's a third, the purple crocus, I think. That's what's mentioned. Crocuses, the child gets crocus. They're like flowers. And in the Bible, the crocus appears in desolate areas of the world as kind of a symbol of like rejoice, like something sparking up, something pure of nature sparking up in a desert. It's kind of like the world rejoicing. So it it may be so kind of like it with those three colors. It's like a linear progression in feeling. So the feeling blue, then we get the child. That's kind of like symbolically not blue, more joyful. That's life, and then purple, rejoice. So while it is like a sad song about kind of divorce and a split relationship, there is some optimism there. Carrie, this is a bit more upbeat tune, kind of like what I was saying with the guitar and piano. I do kind of like how the mood shifts through this album, but and we get more paternal references to a lover. You're a mean old daddy, she says. But the lady she's finally left. Joni Mitchell has finally left North America. She's born in Canada, comes to the States, and now she's finally leaving. We get to go to Africa in this song. We're in France. We're in Spain. It's like kind of obviously literal for what we're kind of a literal vacation that's being described, but also a vacation for us, the listeners, because it's not really a sad song. There's certainly kind of like can be admirable to have some jovial feelings, but it's a nice detour. But there are no mentions of the color blue. But we get a mention of silver, which is like jewelry. So, and luxury. We get to feel rich on vacation. And how much else is there to be said about this song? Not much at all. It's good, though. It's not the worst song on the album. Now we're at the title track. We get blue again, the color. And I think this is probably the most impressive poetry of the first side of the album. It's kind of what I was talking about, these genres of blues and rock and roll and how she feels she fits in. But in this song, The Life of Rock and Roll, it's a bit too much. Acid, booze, and ass, needles, guns, and grass. No thank you, no thank you. We don't want that. It's like a great song, and about like kind of the contrast of rock being something that's evolved out of blues. They are both musically and thematically similar and kind of in the same vein, but how they present themselves and how they present those feelings are obviously quite different. As the blues are a lot more confrontational and honest about these sorrowful, like, feelings in life, while rock and roll wears it and disguises a bit more as like a glamorous look. But yeah, no, it's a good song. I like this one. California, we're back in France in this song, and we're also in California. We're talking about California. But no, it's a great song, very lovely. Especially for someone like her, who's not. It's very sweet because she's not born in California, but she's able to express such homely feelings for the land. I think there's a song. I think maybe it's the "We Had a King, I Had a King" on the first album. That's translate these kind of homely feelings. I think that was more about coming from Ontario, but now a couple years later, she seems to really have found a real place in the world in California, which is nice. But this is it's a personal song, but I like how direct it is and how it fully personifies this land into a person, because the lingering feelings of the past and longing, these are constant things we hear about in our music, mostly about relationships. But she's kind of in this song. She's using that same language just for her new home, and kind of like how she can be pensive about her future. I think the main kind of like hook and line is song in this song is like, "Just take me how I am." Do you talk about New York City? Like, do you talk about your home like that? Just take me how I am. It's kind of funny to hear her talk about that, but it's true. Like, I mean, when you move somewhere new, you want them to take you as you are, despite your past struggles in relationships. So everything she's gone through, she has to come to feel that she must speak to this new home, that she's returning to, because she's coming back from these vacations, and she's like, been through all these crazy relationships. Just take me as I am. Let me get another shot at this. So, another good song. I think we're, what, like 6 for 6 or something? This Flight Tonight, 6 or 7, no. But I do think it's probably the weakest track on this album, mostly just for that wacky, artificial audio track, that radio shit that they throw in. We didn't need that. You're being too cute. But we were dreaming about California, and now we are on the flight to California. She does this kind of cute, elevated whisper that progresses into elongated singing on this that I really like. But yeah, I honestly don't have a lot to say about this song, but I really love the lines. Up there's up there is heaven, down there is a town, blackness everywhere, and little lights shine. Blackness dragging me down. Maybe not the exact words, but come on, light this candle in this poor heart of mine. Because like on a plane, when you're looking at your town, you can only think about the past. You can only think about the future. On a plane, you can't do anything in the present, and so it's easy to just kind of sit in solitude and dwell on things and meander about what life was and what life could have been. and what worries and anxieties will come when you land on the ground. Or maybe you have a much more optimistic view. I don't know. But in this song, this is exactly what's being translated. So I really liked that, how specific it got with just those feelings on the plane. Okay, The River. This is an amazing song. It's the best on the album. It is a top three Joni Mitchell song. It's so less direct and forward than some of these other songs of kind of longing, and whether it's for a home or for a lover. It's just in the pantheon of what it means to yearn for someone, and what it even means to yearn for kind of yourself, or a new self, a new person, a new body to live in. Um, I, it's like just the feeling of running away from your own life, and never having to speak to kind of certain people, or never having to deal with certain obligations and responsibilities in your life ever again. You just pick up and you skate away. That's an everlasting fantasy in my mind. So it's beautiful just to be able to hear that in music. And this song in particular really just perfectly embodies that for me. Um, but yeah, I this is the song I listen to the most off this album. It's also one of those where, you know what, you don't need to hear me talk too much, but you just gotta listen to it. And I also love that it's like a Christmas song. The dun dun dun, the jingle bells in the beginning, and there's kind of more imagery about the reindeers in that one stanza. But no, it's good because Christmas, it is a time of joy and giving and being thankful and grateful for those around you. But it can also be one of the loneliest times of the year for some. And, sometimes during Christmas time, sometimes it's so easy to just want to skate away. That's all. But Case of You, our next song, just reading this on paper, one could definitely read the metaphor of like, you're a bottle of wine, I could drink a case of you. Little bit of an embarrassing and stupid metaphor for a song, but when you listen to the music, you're like, okay, maybe it's actually pretty good. But no, it's a good song, especially like I think her vocals are mainly what's worthwhile. I think it's probably her best vocal performance on the album. It's just so perfectly composed, and the final lines are really perfect for the song. And yeah, still I will be on my feet for how bitter and sweet kind of this other person is. But yeah, I think we are at the last song. The last time I saw Richard, this, I think it's a great closer. What I like, what really is good here is I love how in the end it doesn't really start for a minute. It's just that orchestral piano going, and then she comes in. But I think what that does to me, sometimes I just close the eyes as that piano is going, and then and just listen to the story, because this song, I could think it's the most scenic. It's definitely the most, like, yeah, it's like a scenic and filmic song. It's got the most forward imagery. It's not like a ballad, but it's kind of directed in that sense of like a story to follow. But it still has a lot of poetry. I love how she describes this guy's like eyes as like tombstones. You got tombs in your eyes, but the songs you punched are still dreaming. Yeah. But also, what this song is saying is, don't throw your life away. You have to refuse to stay complacent in this life. Don't be like Richard, who just wanes away in his time, and I think she's certainly singing about someone who she had a deep love for, but someone who just doesn't really have a lot of ambition. We've all been around people who don't have ambition, but they have qualities we admire about them, but they're they just speak so much to how little they have going for themselves and want to have going for themselves, and it sucks the air out of the room, and you realize I cannot be around this person, so you got to get out of Dodge. Good song. That's it. Closing thoughts. It's yeah, no, it's. I mean, thinking about it now, thinking about everything I just talked about, it kind of remarks upon me that there aren't really any bad songs. It really is a perfect album. I do give it the 5 stars. The first one, her first masterpiece, she did it. But no, I mean the reason I'm kind of talking in these like subdued tones about this album is because I remember I think I first listened to it. I first couple listens. I didn't think it. I wasn't at this point. I thought it was great, but I never really saw kind of why it was the album at the top of the list and why it was the one picked kind of for her, like out of all of her albums. I'm still not sure it's my favorite from her, but it really clicked with me just sitting in the library today, listening to it more, and really just going into some of the lyrics. But it's it is as good as advertised. Well, maybe not. I don't know her best album, but yeah, it's what it is. It is the good Joni Mitchell album, as I like to call it. But I'm sure you've all listened to it. I hope you enjoy it. But goodbye.